Welcome to the Why Music podcast, where we talk to independent artists about their journeys, the inspirations behind their music, and ultimately why they make music. This next artist is a D1 athlete who has transformed into a hip hop artist. Experimenting with all things R&B in his music, he is constantly evolving his sound. Grabbing attention with every lyric, his music is simply captivating. Welcome, Remy.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I always like to start with where your journey with music all started.
Yeah. My journey with music just from the love aspect started from birth, as far as I can remember, honestly. My parents are very like musically inclined. They love music. Waking up, listening to the oldies, on the way to school, listening to Tom Joyner radio, on the way back from school, listening to Greg Street 106 in Park, all that type of stuff. I pretty much listen to music 20 out of the 24 hours of the day. The other 4 hours I'm asleep. So um, I don't know where it started, but it's just something that I've known since I can remember, honestly.
And what about as a creative in the music space? When did that start?
Yes, yeah. So as an actual artist, as a recording artist, I recorded my very first session in 2020. I've always written music, just as an expression that I didn't know was an expression at the time. Just being a little kid writing words that rhymed, I didn't really know that that was a form of self-expression. I thought that was just me doing some random stuff, but obviously it grew into a passion and it grew into a skill set that I'm still cultivating and still forming. But I had my first session in 2020. Like I actually went to the studio, recorded for the first time, paid the engineer, had my first experience, in the actual studio aspect. So I've been going hard for about 3 years now.
So what was it that kind of about like you said, like writing these little things as a kid, what kind of made you make the decision to go into the studio and record and like continue like doing music as an artist?
Well, I flirted with the idea like my entire life, honestly. I remember the very first time I ever recorded myself. It wasn't in a studio, it was in fifth grade. One of my buddies at the time, I went over his house to have like a little homework study session. And in his basement, he actually had an an iMac with Fruity Loops on it, like the very first version of Fruity Loops. So he was down there making his beats. And I'm like, damn, hold on. His name's Devin. I'm like, hold on, Devin. Let me see if I can hop on one of these beats or something. So I recorded myself for the first time in fifth grade, but I had my first recording session, 2020. Um, so yeah, I've always kind of flirted with the idea, but as far as taking it serious, it was 2020, and I really wish I had a come to Jesus story about why I decided to do it. But football was kind of just cut shorter than what I anticipated, and it was just kind of like a slap in the face. Like, this is what you're doing. It wasn't even a debate I had in my head. I literally was in the studio on crutches when I tore my knee from football. I went to the studio like not even 2 weeks later. It was kind of just like an immediate, this is what we doing, this is what we on. So that's how it started.
Do you think that things would have transpired the same way if you hadn't, like, football hadn't ended earlier, if you hadn't gotten injured? Do you think that it would have kind of taken still the same path, or was that just something that kind of, that was the music was the silver lining of this unfortunate
Yeah,
situation?
I truly believe that the music was a silver lining of what seemed to be an unfortunate situation. But looking back on it 3 years from now, that's the best thing that's ever happened to me was tearing my knee. I know that's kind of crazy to hear from somebody. I know that's a rare statement to make, but I think that's the best thing that ever happened to me. I always had plans on making music. I had aspirations of making it to the NFL, of course, and I had plans on playing at the next level. And I thought I would do like the Le'Veon Bell thing or the AB thing, where you make music and you're an athlete. But obviously, when music was taken away, uh, it gave me like a true sense of purpose. I tapped into purpose for the first time in my life. I thought athletics was my purpose, and then when I really found my purpose, I'm like, oh, like this is this
This
is
is
what
what
people
it
talk
is.
about when they like say they get this crazy ass feeling like at night, or they can't sleep at night thinking about something. I never had that with football. I just thought that I was just a gifted athlete. I worked hard, or what I thought was hard work at the time. But even tapping into music showed me another level of hard work that I've even learned about myself. So yeah, it was definitely a silver lining to me. I think that's the best moment in my life to this point, honestly.
I mean, it is, it's sometimes those things happen in that way where it's like if you try and force it to happen and try and force it to transpire in a certain way, it's not going to really give until you take a step back and are like, just let it happen. Like I tried writing lyrics for like 2 years before I ended up actually writing a something that was somewhat coherent. And it was like, it
Yeah,
wasn't until I just was like, okay, I'm just like not gonna try and make this happen. I'm just gonna see what happens. And
just
then it
do
you
it.
know it worked
Yeah,
out. So
facts.
sometimes you just have to let the universe do its thing.
Do what it do, and you just got to keep
So
putting the left in front of the right. Facts, big
yeah.
facts.
So I mean, yeah, like you said, your knee probably, I mean, it happened and turned like the result is a good result. It
Exactly.
probably wasn't the most fun thing at the time,
Yeah,
but
it wasn't.
looking back on it, here we are, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
Do you think that being someone who played sports at such a level, like being a college athlete, that at all feeds into who you are as an artist?
100%, 100%. I don't think it feeds into my artistry as far as like the pure creation of like what I put into my music, but it 100% feeds into how I approach my music. Like I come from a background of if you don't work, you don't eat. If you don't, if you don't go do the extra reps, you're not gonna play on Saturdays. Or
Hmm.
if you don't go do the extra film, you're not gonna play on Saturdays. So if you don't take your ass to the studio, you're not gonna make no good music. Or if you don't go do uncomfortable situations where you go tap in and network in the city, which is something that I've had to, look in the mirror and, coach myself up on. Like if you're not gonna go put yourself out there and rub elbows with the people who are doing what you're trying to do, you're not gonna make nothing happen. It's not just like it's a million talented people in the world, but
Hmm.
what separates you from the rest of the talented people? So yeah, my background as an athlete definitely applies to my artistry every single day.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. Like, especially in the space that we're in now of people can make music on their laptops in their basement.
Right.
Like
Facts.
it's not like we need the studio anymore. It's not even we need the record labels anymore. Anybody can do it. So it's a very saturated place to be. So like
100%.
if you're not doing anything, if you're just like waiting for things to happen, waiting for people to find your music, waiting for a label if that's something that you want, like waiting for those things, good luck.
It'll never happen.
Good luck,
Yeah, I won't even tell that type of person good luck. It'll never happen. That's what I'll tell them. Like, it'll just like I'm a realistic person. I mean, you want to do, you say you want to do it, or do you actually want to do it? That's how I look at it. So I wouldn't even tell that type of person good luck. I'll tell them find something else to do, because you taking a space from me, for people like me who trying to get in the room. Not real shit. Like that's how I feel about it. I don't take it lightly, and I don't appreciate when people don't approach it with a certain level of gratitude or appreciation. Because
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
there are
I
people
go
willing to
full
work
throttle.
for it. So like
Yeah,
move aside if that's not you. No, I have been saying that I think that things are gonna die back down in the next like year or two, probably as far as the amount of people that are doing it now, because not every like people, some people are doing it like just for fun, and that's
yeah,
fine. But like at the same time, it's like that's not gonna last you forever. And
it's not.
then that's just gonna die off. And the people that are really like here to work for it will be the ones that are still here.
I 100% agree.
Hopefully.
I 100% agree.
Hopefully.
Yeah, facts. I
So,
mean, the real wins in the end, so it is what it is. But I would 100% agree with that. I think we're on the decline of that whole like content creator, rapper, social media rapper
yeah.
type of like. Obviously, if you make music, you have to become a content creator. You have to become a social media guru. You have to become a marketing guru. But like some people who just use their music to put them in different scenarios or different situations or different rooms, who don't really have the true love for music, I definitely think we're on the decline of the rise of those type of artists, just because of the product that's being pushed out on a day-to-day basis is not at a level of quality that that we're used to growing up, in my personal opinion.
Yeah. I mean, the downside of having it where anybody can make music is there are going to be probably less quality tracks out there as well.
Yeah,
And stuff like that. So, I mean, everybody has their right to give it a shot, but at the same
yeah,
time, it's like they're not everybody's gonna last,
facts.
So, what often inspires a lot of your writing?
That is a good question. um it's like a feel, it's like a feeling that I get, honestly. Like I don't, if I hear something or if I think of something or if I just feel something, I'll just whip out my notepad and just start typing. Like I don't even have. Sometimes I write entire verses and entire songs without even hearing a beat. Like I'll just go to the studio and talk to one of my producers and be like, "This is what I wrote. Let's construct a beat around this." It's just like an ultimate feeling that I get. Like I got to get this out right now, or it's not. It's never going to come out. So I write in the airport. I write. I can write right now, and you may not even be knowing that I could be writing on the side. I can write
True.
anywhere. Like it's just a certain feeling that I get where I got to get this out right now, or it's just never going to come out.
Do you find a lot of like common themes, like subject matter wise? Like, do you write about a lot of the same things, or is it just kind of whatever
Uh,
the day brings?
yeah, I write about the same thing every single song. My life, my 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 day to day life. You know, my past, what I've done in the past, what I plan to do in the future, what I'm doing right now.
Hmm.
Every single song is literally my life. I don't plan on changing that ever, just because I feel like that's just the most authentic and the most genuine form of creation and vulnerability that I can
Hmm.
give to, give to myself. Ultimately, I make music for myself. I know that I like it, then somebody, my target audience will like it. So yeah, every song's about the same thing, my life.
I mean, I think that can at times be some of the easiest stuff to write about, but can also at times be some of the hardest stuff to write about because it's like I'm going through it. Like, it's like one of those
Man,
things where it's
oh
like
my
you don't want to take
gosh.
your own advice, but if somebody else is like giving it to you, then it makes sense. It's like,
Yeah,
like you're on the outside, you're on the outside perspective, and then it's like you're telling somebody like this is, but they're just like not hearing it completely because they're the one living it. So, it's like one of
facts
those things where it's like we're not our best advisors,
at all.
and we're not always
Yeah,
going to be the ones like, it's like, why did this happen? Well, somebody else might have an explanation for that. I don't, it's just that lived in experience thing where it's like, you can't always pull yourself out of it in a way to create about it. And so it's
right.
like, sometimes it's just like second nature. Okay. We know how we feel.
And
Let's say our piece.
sometimes, honestly, just being a human, just being transparent with you, it's a level of vulnerability that
Hmm.
sometimes you don't want to tap into. Like,
No.
I don't want to say this on in the studio right now because I don't want people in this studio to be looking at me crazy or like looking at me like I'm going to like it. But that's oftentimes the best songs. Like when you truly reach an uncomfortable level of vulnerability. Like I don't really know how this is gonna sound or feel when it come out, but
Hmm.
when they come out, it often becomes the best songs. Honestly,
Right, because it's especially one of those things that it's almost like uncharted territory in the way of
yeah,
like you haven't really touched on that point, and the reason that you haven't touched on that point is because nobody's touching on that point.
yeah,
And so if like it's something new, and it's like the thing is at the end of the day we have to remind ourselves that if I'm experiencing this, there is at least 100 other people that have experienced that same thing,
thousand
like to a
percent,
T. So it's like if you can find those people, you're golden,
yeah,
So if
yeah,
you can write for like if you write for yourself, you're writing for other people just by default.
100%. I agree. I agree 100%.
Um, if you had to create a new genre around your style of music, what would you call it?
If I had to create a new genre around my style of music, what would that genre be called? It would be called universal music. Like you know how you got house music, you got EDM music. I would create my own genre, like universal. Anybody who likes music can turn my shit on and rock with. That's what I would call my genre, universal.
You think it's for everybody?
I truly do believe my music is for everybody just because it's so relatable. Like maybe the aggression form of rap might not be for everybody, or it might be off-putting to the surface level of somebody's ears. But if you really listen to the words, or if you pay attention to the story or what I'm talking about, like everybody goes through what I'm talking about. I'm just putting it in a certain type of form that might be off-putting to the common ear or to
Mm.
somebody who doesn't necessarily listen to rap every day. But I wouldn't necessarily constitute myself as like a traditional rapper. Like I talk about real stuff, and I'm also a real person. I went to college. I have a degree. I went to a private school. I've been around, poor people, broke, rich people. I've been around crazy people. I've been around scammers. I've been around presidents, CEOs, drug dealers. Like I've encompassed so many walks of life. Like I don't feel like anybody has a choice but to fuck with what I put out just because it's so real. Like that's honestly how I feel about it. Like it's just relatable. You can't deny that. Something I say in a song you've been through or you can attest to or you can feel the way I feel it.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking as someone who's not really a rap consumer,
Right.
I've enjoyed it,
I appreciate that.
So I can attest it even if you don't like rap, it still can be for you.
I appreciate that. If you can
So,
remember off top, what was your favorite one? If
oh
you
gosh, I cannot
Yeah, I
remember
put
off
you
the
on this.
top of my
Yeah,
head.
yeah. You put me on the spot. I'm put you on the spot.
I can't remember off the top of my head. I can barely keep track of all my own stuff.
I'm already knowing.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's it's rap for the pop ear in the way of like in the sense of like it's you don't have to be like a rap person for it.
Right.
You can be like I'm a big pop music person. It's like it's not like the like what I consider like the popular rap now where there's some of that just to me I'm just like what are we really doing here?
Yeah, it's just drill music,
So
honestly.
I'm
It's
like
just
that's
yeah,
yeah, exactly. And so like
yeah.
it's not that. It's different in a good
Got some
way.
substance. I appreciate
Yes.
that. I appreciate it.
um
I mean, I think that comes from, and I don't want to knock anybody's creative expression because
mhm,
at the end of the day, like as an artist, I know that that's just somebody going to the studio and expressing what they go through. So
mhm.
I don't want to like, you know, to put a cloud over anybody's expression because I'm not gonna lie, I listen to that music every day. Like I listen to the crash out music, I listen to drill music every day, but what comes out of my vocal cords and what comes out of my heart and soul is just a testament to where I come from. I don't come from that type of life. I come from a good family, a great support system. They put me in situations we might not have had the most money growing up, but I've been exposed to successful people or people that are doing things for themselves. So that's a big part of why my music is has the substance that it has, just because of the walk of life that I've been on. So I don't want to talk down on anybody else's form of expression, but I do agree with you 100%. It is a big dark cloud over rap right now, honestly.
It's I think it's not just even rap, it's like collectively like the surface level like popular sides of different
Mm,
genres, like even country and pop music itself and like even some rock and electric. Like it's like the stuff that we've deemed to be like, like when you think of the stereotype almost, what you
yeah,
think of when you think of that genre is it feels almost not artificial, but more like intentionally crafted in a like marketable and appropriate way like that rather than like if you really go deeper into country or rock or even like like lower levels of pop in the sense of like popularity like
yeah.
you're going to hear some more cool and creative stuff than just like the basic top level of things like
Is
pop
that what
country
pop music? Is that what pop? I'm sorry to cut you off. Is that what pop music is short for?
what
Popularity?
I think it's short for popular, but that's a whole different thing now
I
because it's
had
like when
no
you think
idea.
but yeah, I mean, I think that because it's like pop culture, it's like what's popular. So I think
Yeah,
it's like that same
popular
kind of
pop
thing.
culture.
But
Yeah, that's hard. You just taught me something.
but at the same time, it's like, well, here's the thing though. Answer the question like if pop isn't pop, if it isn't called pop, what is it? Like how do you like you know what I mean? Like how do you make pop
Yeah.
music if it's not popular?
Mm,
That's where it's like
that's
what is
hard.
pop really defined as,
Yeah, that's
Like
hard.
that's the tricky thing, which is,
That's hard.
it's that's like a I don't even know what kind of question, but it's just doesn't
Yeah,
really
I
have
don't
an
have an
answer.
answer to that. You own
Right,
something with that
right.
one. Yeah, I would have to spend a lot of
So
time thinking about that one.
yeah, and so like I think like there's more to every genre than what it meets the eye in the sense of
Honestly.
like, like if you go beyond just what the market shows you as like, like pop like top country or like pop rising or something like that, it's like
Yeah,
that'll give you a taste and like yes, like those songs are still good. There's reasons that certain songs become hits. But
right.
at the same time it's like there's more substance when you go beyond that
When
because
you
then it's
dig
like you
deeper.
if you dig deeper you're getting people that are more truly authentic and it's not like 10 different people are writing this song and seven different
Right,
people are producing it. It's
right.
it's just like it's more authentic to whoever is
Making
behind
the
it.
song 100%.
So,
Yeah,
um,
I
not to
agree.
knock the popular stuff. I'm a fan. I will listen to the popular stuff,
Me
but
as well. Yeah.
there's, it's the more niche you go, the more like rich it is.
Yeah, yeah. You gotta go into the deep ends of the water sometimes. Like playing
Yeah.
in the shallow end is cool, putting your feet in is cool, but you gotta go in the deep end where you can't stand up to really, see if you can swim. Honestly, that's the best
Right.
way I could put it.
Right. Like you can't say that you like don't like country or don't like rap if you've only listened to like these
Yeah. So
surface
what they're
level stuff, because
100%,
there is
man.
probably something in those different categories that you will enjoy.
That you rock with. Yep, I agree.
So, is there a release that you think or a song that you've written that you think best embodies who you are as an artist? It's hard. It's hard to pick
Yeah,
one.
it's
It
hard to
is.
pick one. Um, if I had to, this is not my favorite song that I've
Mhm.
written, but to answer that question, it's a song called "Soon Come." It's the outro of my last project, Poster Boy 2, that I just put out.
Hey, young poster. Y'all know what time it is. Look, hey, G-Star wax denim, brand new stacks in them, got beat packs in them, they handle. Poster back winning, this back sending, bros is back switching like channels. Fine tune who I'm spending my time for. No time for politics while I'm on tour. Fine complimenting my time for it. Respond compliment her contour. Piece of the only one that taught to me deeply. Russ still there every time that you see me. My mama still smile every time that she greet me. Hey, so what the could I complain for? I'm back on track, we back to back. I'm back to writing platinum tracks. Most people cannot fathom that, cause I ain't got no platinum plaques. Right, it's like I'm looking back, something like a psychic. Shorty keep her shit intact, her nails how I like it. Taking pictures from the back, I'm swiping up like sidekicks. Smoking out the sack, she can't believe how high I get.
That would encompass me as an artist or who I am. Like that's just straight what I grew up on, bar heavy, bar for bar, no hook, popping shit, letting you know what's going on in my day-to-day life, the hard times, the good times, what we've been through, what we're going to, what we're doing in this very moment. Exactly what I was saying earlier. So I guess that's me tying it full circle with the proper answer. I'm glad that I did that. But I would say a song called Soon Come. Um, yeah, that would be my answer if I had to just tell somebody, yeah, this is who Poster Boy is, or this is who Remy is as an artist. Play that song. Yeah,
Okay. Then since it's not your favorite, which one is your favorite? Do you have a favorite?
my favorite song, to be completely honest, is not released.
Okay.
My favorite song that is released, it changes. Like
It
I'm one.
does.
All right, so I'm one of those artists that when I don't have a release in the foreseeable future, or
Hmm.
like I know I'm not working on a specific project, or I know it's not time to drop something in the immediate
Right.
future, I don't really listen to myself, to be honest. I don't know why, but if I know I'm about to release a project in the next month or 2 months, that's when I don't listen to anybody but myself,
Mm.
because it's time to put something out. And I don't even do that intentionally. Like I'll get in the car, go to Apple Music, put on some of my favorite artists, and then I'll hear 30 seconds of the song and be like, nah, I gotta listen to what I just laid down yesterday. I gotta hear that shit. Like, but I mean, my favorite song that I have put out. Um, I like a song called right now. My favorite song by me that's out is called "Keep It Low." That's on the same project. I probably play that like once a day for the past 2 3 weeks. Right now, it's called "Keep It Low." It just got a good vibe, a good sound to it. Uh, yeah, that's my favorite of mine right now. Before I change my answer, I'm locking it in.
Do you think that your current favorite, since it's like unreleased and like a somewhat like recent creation, that's why it's your favorite because it's like still new and fresh? Because I personally have noticed that like when I like first write something, that is instantly my favorite song. Like I'm working
Yeah.
on an album and it's like the most recent one is it, or like when it's like finally like done, that's the one that I'm like, okay, this is it. But like then later on, I'm like, maybe not.
So honestly, yeah, a lot of the time, yeah. But my overall favorite song is actually the oldest song I've ever done. It's unreleased. Like I'm just waiting on the timing to put it out, or like the
Oh,
proper
okay.
time. It's like actually one of the first 3 songs I ever wrote in 2019. It's my favorite for probably that reason. It was like my first time going to the studio for real, hearing myself on in a professional, good quality sounding setting. So that might be part of the reason it's my favorite. But a lot of the time, I do want to hear the stuff in my notes, not what's on Apple Music. Or like when somebody is telling me play something, I'll play something in my notes. It's like I completely forget I got 100+ songs or close to 100 songs that's on platforms right now.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've noticed that like I will listen to something up until it's released, and then once it's released, it's like I don't want to touch it for like
Yeah,
a
facts.
while.
I'm done with it, y'all.
Yeah.
Because, but you gotta think like, so I don't. I wish I had analytical backing to say this, but like when somebody likes a song or when somebody loves a song, they probably listen to that song 100 times in the
Hmm.
next week or so, whatever you want.
Hmm.
Like me personally, if I fall in love with a song, I'm listening to that motherfucker 100 times in a week, maybe more. But from the artist standpoint, I wrote the song, so
Hmm.
I already know what it sounds like prior to me even recording it.
Mm.
I recorded the song, so that's the first time I'm hearing it. I've heard the rough 500 times. I've heard mix one 500 times. I've heard mix two 500 times. I've heard mix 3 through 10 100 times. So by the time it gets to Apple Music, I've heard that song 500,000 times. Like it's not even a not trying to show appreciation to what I've worked on, but like I've had my moment with that song. Now it's
Right,
time for y'all to have the moment with the song.
right.
I'm on to the next one.
No, 100%. Like it's less of like a like okay, like I'm over this or like I'm just done. It's really just like okay, I have been listening to this for the last several weeks.
Yes.
I'm okay with it now. You know, like
Yeah.
it's everybody
I
else's
feel
turn to deal
comfortable.
with
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Y'all,
like
y'all,
I
y'all
can
judge it. Yeah.
we need to take a little break. We can
Facts.
return, but for right now we need a little break.
I still love you, but I just need to take a couple steps back right now.
Right, right. Like I
Yeah.
need a little vacation from the song. Like
Yeah.
let it go sit with everybody else for a while. I will listen to it
Facts.
later.
Yeah.
So, um, if you had to pick two or three artists that you think your music is like a combination of, who would it be?
I would be lying if I told you the answer to that question because I don't think there is anyone. There's artists that inspire me, of course, and there's
Hmm.
artist sounds that inspire me, but I truly don't think I sound like anybody. Like, not even from a cocky standpoint, I genuinely feel that way. Like when I listen to my favorite artist or when I listen, I can tell when I have certain influences within my music. I guess I can answer that question or maybe who
Hmm.
can I hear influences from my music in, but when it comes to like sound or like creation, I don't think I sound like anybody that has ever made music before. Not even just saying my shit is that fire, which I truly believe it is, but I'm just literally saying from the sonic standpoint and from the creation standpoint, I don't think I sound like anybody. But there's a lot of inspiration from Drake, of course. I feel like any up and coming artist would give that answer. There's a lot of inspiration from Nip, a lot of inspiration from Rick Ross. I was born in Florida, so I grew up listening to Rick Ross a lot from my pops. Um, Current day, like recently, it's a lot of inspiration from Future, not necessarily from like the context, but just maybe the approach of the recordings or like flows. It's a lot of influence from Future recently, but like I said, I don't think I sound like any of those artists that I just named, but those are probably would be my biggest creative inspirations.
You don't think that there's any even like little aspects that like from any of them that you think like you
In
touched on it
my
with Future a little bit, like, but what kind of like little pieces of those artists do you think influences your work now?
yeah. All right, so from starting off phases, I definitely can hear heavy influences from a couple of those artists. So from like the sound that I was trying to when and side note, I'm not one of those people that believe in like finding your sound. Like if it's coming out of my voice, it's my sound. So how can I find something that's already coming out of me? But to go back to the question, a lot of flows that I would try to emulate when I was first starting off was heavy on Rick Ross. I love Rick Ross flows. So whenever I was trying to pin something hard, I would just emulate Rick Ross. Initially, when I was starting off a lot of my content, I tried to emulate Nipsey because I just love what he stands on or what he stood on. Sound from a sonic standpoint, Drake. Um, popping shit to the ladies or to the shorties future. So that's how I would say I tied it in. But as of like right now, in the level of my artistry that I'm at, I'm 100% me.
I mean, I think that's the best way you can go about it. I
Yeah,
do always think it's always interesting because sometimes those that influence you are very similar to your writing and but other times it's like very contrasting in the sense of like you wouldn't guess that that person is an influence of this artist
right.
because it's like there's no correlation like sonically, and it's always more so like you hear a song and it's like, oh, it sounds like so and so. It's less of like you're not really like dissecting it in the way of like their writing style comes from
Yeah,
this, or like where
yeah.
this idea would have come from is from such and such. But it is
A
always
crazy,
interesting to
yeah, a
think.
crazy addition to that as far as like my creative inspiration. Whenever I'm like, as a fellow artist, whenever you're like
Mhm.
deep in that creative mode, like you just so locked in on making music, making songs or whatever, probably a couple weeks before release when you're trying to squeeze out that last one to two that's going on there. I listen to 90% rock throughout my day, which is crazy. Like the very first album, I've only purchased one physical album in my entire life, and that's Green Day, American Idiot. Like I went to Barnes and Noble. I literally went to Barnes and Noble to buy that CD because it just touched me so much in a crazy way. Like I don't know how the hell they put those sounds together and made it sound like that and made me feel that way. But whenever I'm deep in that mode and I'm like, yeah, it's time to dig deep, I listen to nothing but rock. Honestly, I don't even listen to rap.
That's interesting. I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes that can be great because it's like you're taking an outside influence, like a completely different sector of music, and taking it as like, here's what we're honing in on. Like, but you have that kind of floating there as like an outside influence. Like, this isn't, the same stream that I'm going down, but it's helping it flow along.
it's helping it flow 100%.
What is an outside passion of yours that you think impacts who you are as an artist?
I love fashion. I love getting dressed. I love putting it on. Um, I won best dressed in high school at a school that we wear uniforms. So you can only imagine how like how different I had to dress, or like how out there I had to be with my style to win best dress at a uniform school. So something outside of music that I love to do is I just love to look nice. I love to buy nice clothes. I love to dress nice. I just love to give a proper presentation when I'm out. You never know who you're gonna meet, and honestly, it's not even for other people. I just feel good when I'm what I'm
Look good,
saying? I
feel
just feel
good.
good when look good, feel good. Exactly. So I would say fashion for sure.
Um, how do you think that that contributes to your artistry? Do you think it just like you like, how you approach both things? Like, what is it that kind of you think connects the two? Because I definitely think there's a correlation between those
Yeah.
two things, but I'm wondering what kind of your thoughts are.
Yeah. Um, well, it's kind of like a cheat code, honestly. Like if you're trying to think of a bar or something, you could just rap about what you got on. So that's that's helpful. But I think if you listen to my music, and then like if you just go to my Instagram or listen and just look at my fits or look at what I got on, I think they would be very parallel to like similar styles. So I think it just helps cultivate my style, or it just helps me express myself in it in various ways. Like sometimes I don't feel like going out and talking to nobody. Let me just put on this crazy ass outfit. That's the type of conversation. I don't feel like saying nothing. Let me just put that shit on real quick, and that'll be my conversation piece, is my fit. Or um, that's a good question. No, I never even thought about that, but I think it just from a self-expression standpoint, I think that's where it parallels with the music. It's just another way to show myself to the outside perspective of who I am.
No, and 100% anything that kind of caters more to like it's like a visual representation of you, whereas like the music is like a sonic representation of you. And so those two things can go hand in hand, and then it just kind of builds into your brand overall. And it's like, it's you hear your music, then you'll think of said outfit or something,
Right.
like that kind of
Exactly.
thing.
Yeah. Exactly. Like Keep It Low, the song that I said is my favorite right now. Like the very first the very first line is hair on press the sleeves, so be on my jeans below. Like it just put me in a certain mood. Like I know what I had on that day when I went to the studio. Like I just having that shit on to put me in a certain type of mindset.
No, 100%. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a really like down to the wire tie-in, which is just really cool.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I can tell you strictly because of those two lines, I know my exact fit from that day. I know exactly what I was doing. Like, and then another answer, sports. Obviously, I love sports. I do plan on getting back into the sports world when I take care of what I need to take care of with my music, whether that's youth leagues, coaching youth leagues, or broadcasting. I used to want to be a broadcaster when I was in high school, like on ESPN or College Game Day or something like that. So I definitely plan on tapping into that world once I'm handling business how I need to on this world.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly a foundational piece of what's kind of gotten you to this point and just a foundational piece of who you are. So it like some of those things just never die. Even
Yeah,
like, we just never let them die, which
yeah,
like for the better. Like it's not like it was like, some shitty habit
yeah.
or,
Not a bad habit
something.
or nothing.
No,
Yeah,
exactly. No harm, no foul.
exactly, exactly.
What is the ideal listening scenario for someone to consume your music in? Like, what kind of setting do you think it would be best set?
Ooh, all right. Um, we'll go for the ladies first. All right. If you was a lady, if you was a shorty tapping into my music for the first time, I need you to be I need you to be ready to go out. Like you need to be doing your makeup. You need to be picking out your fit. You need to be talking to your homegirls in the group chat, figuring out what y'all finna do while my music playing in the background. I feel like that'll be the best introduction to my music for a girl or to a shorty who just finna get in her bag. Feel me? Sip on whatever she wants to sip on, roll up if she into that, pop out with her friends, like just get in a good mode, good vibe. That would be my way I would introduce my music to women. As a man, I have a lot more. I have a very niche approach or a very specific approach when I make my music for the
Hmm.
ladies, but for the men, it has a wider, range of where you can listen it to. But if I had to pick one, same situation, like but you actually with the shorties, like you just vibing out with the shorties, drinking, smoking, chilling, whatever y'all do on a day-to-day basis to make you feel good or to enjoy your time. Just put that post on in the background and vibe out. You'll get through the whole project without even realizing.
Fair enough. So really just, setting up for a good time.
Yeah, just getting the vibe. Just getting that's what I like to do. I like to have a good time. Obviously, I tap into the more vulnerable the more vulnerable music and the deeper music, but honestly, just how my mind is set up and how I approach my day to day basis, just from a human standpoint, not even from an artist standpoint. I'm always on the upper side of things, even though life might not always have me physically placed there, but my mind is rarely where my body is in today, and like on a day to day basis, my mind is gone. Honestly, is out of there. So my mind is usually in a positive state 99.9% of the time. So that's where a lot of my music comes from. It's just having a good time, being in the vibe. Because when I listen to myself, that's when I like to listen to myself. Is when I'm having a good time.
I mean, you want to have positive vibes associated with your music.
Exactly.
It's
Yep.
got to have good vibes. Always got to
Exactly.
have the good vibes. What do you think sets you apart from other independent artists?
What sets me apart from other independent artists is my approach to the music. Like I said, there's a million talent. I live in Atlanta, so I can walk out my house right. I can walk out my front door right now and go knock on 20 doors in this neighborhood. 15 people will make music. That's just the nature of where I live. But
Hmm.
what sets me apart is my approach, my professionalism, my understanding of the business side of it, my care for the business side of it, my understanding for the marketing side of it. Like just for example, how we connected. We connected on LinkedIn. Like how many independent artists are really active on LinkedIn? Like trying to form different type of connections or trying to rub different type of elbows. So I think what sets me apart is my professionalism, my understanding and love of business, and just being a good person, being a good human. Like what's for me is for me. So all I have to do is just put left in front of the right and continue to work hard. So that would be my answer to that question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer that like what you put out of there, what you put out will like the more you kind of put out in a good way, like taking the step forward, whatever like sort of energy you're putting out, you will receive back.
Yeah,
In the
shit
sense of like if
in a bad way too. Like you feel me? It worked both
oh yeah,
ways. In a
right,
bad way too. You put hella bad energy out, or you take steps back. You're gonna keep moving backwards. So yeah,
right.
that would be my answer to
100%.
that question. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's one of those things where it's like we kind of touched on this earlier. If you're not going to put yourself in a position to take those opportunities aren't going to come.
Right.
You have to set yourself like you have to do part of the work. Like you can't necessarily guarantee that X, Y, or Z is going to happen if they're big, ambitious things. But if you do ABC to get to whatever point you want to like get towards, it's going to increase your likelihood and your odds of that going that way. And if it's not now, it'll be later, you know?
100%. I'm glad you touched on that because that's something that I've affirmations. I'm big on affirmations and just talking to God, like speaking affirmations over my life. And that was prior to me making music. When I was an athlete in college, I had a big fat whiteboard in my bathroom of the goals that I wanted to reach as an athlete. And I just, moved it over to music, of course. And I've never asked God to make me go viral. I've never asked God to blow me up. I've never asked God to make me the biggest artist. I ask God every single day when I wake up, like literally, I ask God to just make me a better artist and a better writer and better recorder every day. I know that with how my stuff sounds, if I get better every single day as a writer and a vocal artist, I know where I'm headed. So I'm glad that you brought that up. It's the ingredients inside of the recipe. It's not necessarily the cake.
Right. Because like I don't like I'm not for going viral. I'm not for the overnight
Yeah,
success. I'm like, because my thing is, I don't think I'd even want that personally. I would want it to be something that I worked for. I would
facts,
want it to be something that I actually put in time and like, really put in effort to make happen for myself, like, and
hundred
there
percent.
100% are situations where it's like you put in as much as you can and it doesn't work out, but there's probably a reason that it didn't, whether that's an outside reason or it's just like, this was not the time for you, like there are reasons why things occur the way they do, but the best thing that you can do is work with what you can control. You can't control whether this opportunity will be given to you if there's like 1,000 other people competing
Yeah,
for the same thing, but
that's
you can put yourself in the best position to make it work. And then you could at least walk away from it being, I did what I could, and I'm in a better position overall for
I put
it.
my best foot forward. I gave it 100%. I mean, that's all I can, and I think that's another thing is why I was able to walk away from football so quickly and so smoothly is because I worked my ass off. Like I, every practice, every film session, every game, I gave 1,000%. So it was just like it's literally nothing else I could have did. Like
Hmm.
I might not have gotten hurt if I wasn't hustling so hard on that play to get to the other side of the field to try and make that play. I might have not got hurt. But what kind of shit is that? Like I would have avoided what happened if I wasn't giving full effort. I'm not into that. Like
Right.
I don't. That's not how I move.
Right. No, it's do what you can for yourself to put yourself in the best situation, and then you can walk away knowing you did. Like even if it doesn't go perfectly as planned, even if it goes like worst case scenario, you're at least better for it because all of the effort that you made to progress and all of the progress that you made and your transformation, that doesn't go away just because the opportunity didn't fall to you.
Right.
Like that
100%.
effort is still there, and like I said, you're in a better situation for whatever is next, even if
Yeah.
the thing that you wanted isn't the next
Exactly
thing.
what. Yeah. I know exactly what you're saying. I agree. I agree 100%. Just control what you can control. Honestly, that's
Exactly.
what it comes down to. Yeah.
Sometimes it's easier said than done.
Way
We
is
always
not
like,
even sometimes. It's always easier said than done.
yeah, it's because, we want the things to work out in our favor because who doesn't?
So, yeah.
But if everything worked out in your favor, it wouldn't really look like working out in your favor. It would just look like carrying on,
Yeah,
you
it'd
know?
just be robotic, wouldn't it? It would just be like mundane.
I
Like,
am,
another day, everything's going well for me. Like,
I'm a firm
that's
believer
not
in,
life.
yeah, I'm a firm believer you got to have the bad days to appreciate the good. Otherwise, they'd all just be days.
100%. I agree with that.
If
I
you
like
have
that.
to go through something in order to feel really the value of like what good is to come, you know.
100%. 100%.
What impact do you want to have with your music and with your artistry?
I wanna leave music in a better place than what I found it, because I just know what it was like for me coming home from school off of the bus. My mom works very hard. Sometimes my mom would have 2, 3 jobs when I was growing up, and my dad was working as well. So I would come home third grade, second grade, and be home by myself for hours on hours and hours. I know that what music did for me in that time was very fundamental to who I am as a 26-year-old. I would go home after school, and we had Comcast. I would go on demand, go Rap City in the basement or 106 in Park. I would watch that shit literally from like 2 p.m. to 6 or 7 p.m. when my parents got home. I just know what impact that had on my life as a young man, and how it cultivated who I am as a 26-year-old. So I want to do that same thing for kids growing up. I want to be able to provide positive light, or inspiration to people just like me, and I think that I'm doing it in a very special way, because I'm anything but a regular person, but I'm a regular person at the same time. Like I said, I don't come from I don't come from drug dealing and running up hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I went to the studio and blew up. Nah, I went to school. I went to high school. I got a diploma at a 4-year university. I was a Division 1 athlete. Like I've had real jobs. I have a job right now. Like, what I'm saying? I go through the daily walk of what you would call a regular person, but I'm anything but regular. So I think that I could be an inspiration to anybody, to let them know that you can do whatever the hell you want to do. You just got to put your mind to it, and don't say you want to do that shit. You got to do that shit. And I think
Hmm.
if I could leave that message with anybody, that would be the message I would leave. And obviously, just leaving music in a better place, creating fire ass shit, creating big songs, big hits. But at the end of the day, just inspiring people. That's what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. It's like you're walking the same steps, but it's at the same time, it's like, like it's, I mean, anybody you walk by could have a completely different, like could have a, like, could secretly be like behind some huge company or
You
something,
feel me?
like it's like, like it's a very, it's, you never know what someone's like story is. And it's like, I like the way you put it. It's like, I'm I appear a regular person, but I'm like anything but, because it's like
Yeah.
we're, it's a completely different lifestyle being a creative and everything. And
It's
even
it's insanity.
it
For
can
lack of
be,
better words, it's
it can
insanity.
be,
It's it's
that's
it's
for
it's a
sure.
healthy delusion for sure. It's definitely
A
a healthy
healthy delusion.
delusion.
I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's like, and to kind of take it in the sense of like, you had such an impact from music as, an elementary school kid,
yeah,
to being someone that's now creating it, and to still want to like, really have it be, this is what it did for me, I want to do this for other people, is awesome. Like
yeah,
it's a very like wholesome coming, like full circle moment of like, this did this for me, and so I want to do this for other people.
yeah,
It's like, and it kind of even adds more to what you said earlier, and like, you create music for you, so the people that your music is for, like, they are out there.
right,
Like, you're creating music for you. When you hear that at first, it's like you're creating for 26-year-old you present day, but at the same time, you're also creating for like 6-year-old you,
big
which is
facts,
awesome.
which is
Like, to
amazing.
think
Yeah,
about that is like really cool. It's like you're creating for not the you necessarily that you are just right now, but the you that you've been for the last 2
20,
decades
yeah,
plus,
facts.
whoever, you will be to come. Like, that's a really kind of cool whole, like, that's kind of like a mind blowing little moment, but
It
it's like
is.
in a really beautiful way.
Yeah, it is beautiful. Yeah, I have a line in my song. I have a line in one of my songs that's unreleased. It was like, I hope my younger self proud, look in the mirror and my life is groovy. Like, so that's exactly what you're saying. Like, even though I'm physically in this 26-year-old body, I make music for this 26-year-old body right now, but I'm also making music for the little third grader sneaking 106 in Park in the basement before his parents came home because I wasn't allowed to watch TV. Like, I'm still making I'm still making music for that kid. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly right. Exactly what you're saying.
You're making the music for your younger self. You're making the music that your younger self probably would have loved,
Would have
you know.
would have fucked with it. Like I know my younger self would love my music. Okay.
That's awesome. I think that brings us to the final question, which is ultimately the concept behind the podcast, which is why music?
it's a it's a feeling. Like it's such a liberating feeling when I walk out the booth and I'm hearing myself and that shit sounds good. Or like I play it for somebody and they just bobbing their head uncontrollably. Or you play it for somebody who doesn't want to fuck with it, but they have no choice but to fuck with it. Like it's just a feeling I get. It's just it's unexplainable. That's why I'm having a hard time putting words on that answer. But it's just something inside of me that literally burns when I'm creating this, and I feel kind of like it's like I'm floating. It's like I can like remove myself out of this physical body when I'm in that most deepest or most highest form of my creation, or like I know I'm doing what I need to be doing when it comes to the music. It doesn't even have to be literally. It doesn't even have to be literally making the music. Like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I would have killed somebody to just be talking to somebody from across the world who just wants to talk about my music like you are doing right now. Like even little opportunities, well, not little, but even opportunities like this. Like I'm sitting here at 4 o'clock on a Thursday talking about my music. Like that's what it gives me just a certain type of feeling, and I just can't wait to try to give that same feeling to people outside of me, people in my circle, people across the world. But I know that's kind of a wide answer to your question, but it's so hard for me to put into words. If I was able to just share this feeling, like I'm even getting it right now. Like if I was able to just share this feeling with you through the screen, that would be the answer, and you wouldn't even have to ask. But it's just the feeling that it gives me. It's just how it makes me feel. It's just a purpose, true purpose, honestly.
And I think that's like the best thing that it can be. Like if it's what you're truly called to do, it's what you're truly like, I'm a firm believer in if you're passionate about it, you should be doing it. If you don't love it, it's not worth your time in the long run. Some things we have to do just to keep those passion things going.
Alive, yeah.
But at the same time, it's like if you're not chasing what literally like burns in your soul,
You're wasting life.
you're doing yourself a disservice,
Yeah.
let alone
Yes.
anybody that you would like impact with whatever that may be. I think there's a reason that people are doing like like there's a reason for everybody doing anything. You should just chase your passions, do
Just do
the
it.
thing. And
Nike got the best slogan on earth. Just do it.
facts.
Facts.
If they ever like rebrand and like lose that,
Yeah, I'm gonna
they
buy it.
are
Yeah.
really dumb. They
Yeah,
are
facts.
really dumb.
Facts.
But yeah, I mean, it's 100% like go after what you love. Cause like, here's like the worst thing that happened is you say you tried. Nothing comes of it. Worst thing that happens is you could say you tried.
Yeah.
But do you really want to be like 60 years from now, be like, I wish I would have done that? Like,
Absolutely
no,
not.
no, like just
Absolutely
give it
not.
a shot, give yourself a shot.
It's
That's
not an
all,
option. Yeah,
that's all you really can do.
100%.
So, yeah, exactly. Well, I think that is the end of this episode of the Why Music podcast. Check
Yeah.
back again next week for another conversation with another independent artist. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
listening.
Thank you so much for having me. PP2 out. Yes, Ersky.